Good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to turn the chat on. Also waiting for a few more people to join. Just introduce yourself in the chat, say who you are, where you're joining from. Always nice to see we have people from all over the world. Thank you for joining. Francesco from Italy, hello. Hi there, Sally, Denver, Dennis, Dallas, hello again. Yourself, nice to see you again. Some familiar faces. Hi there, Lucy. Hi there, Christy. Hi, Ingrid. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Wow, a lot of people. Great to see you all. Okay, let's get started. So for those of you that are new to Otto, this is your first webinar. My name's Dr. Edmund Farrar. I'm an ex-military doctor and I have tinnitus. I'm also the co-founder and CEO of Otto. And if you are joining, it's not your first webinar and you're joining again, thank you very much for attending. It's great to see you all. I'm really excited to share with you some really interesting stuff tonight. We've got a lot planned. So first things first, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function. Just click on the little Q&A function, Q&A button. Any questions on anything I'm going to talk about, pop in the chat. We've got quite a few of you here this evening. I'm sure I will be able to get around some questions. So we'll go to questions later on. But before we do, I'm going to talk to you tonight about online tinnitus cures. I'm sure nearly all of you have Googled, I'm sure everyone's Googled tinnitus cure at some point in their tinnitus journey. And I'm sure you've also found some treatments, some cures that you found, and you weren't sure whether these were legitimate or whether these were scams or whether there was something in between. So I'm going to tell you tonight about some really common supposed tinnitus cures. And we're going to talk through what to look for if you find a tinnitus cure online or supposed tinnitus cure. And I'm going to talk you through what really works and what really doesn't work. At the end, stick around because we are going to have a prize draw as we do every week. And I'm going to pick someone from the audience who's going to win over £100 worth of free tinnitus help with Otto. So stick around. Okay, so how this is going to work? I'm going to go through I've got some props with me, and I'm going to go through these props and I'm going to talk through. We're going to make it kind of more of an interactive discussion. I'm going to talk through what my opinion is of these things. And you know, if you guys have any questions about it, then I will answer them. I will get around to it. So thank you to those of you that already asked questions, Ingrid and Alan. I will come on to those questions. They are both good questions. So I'm going to start talking about the first tinnitus cure. So you've probably seen online a whole number of different supplements, tinnitus treatments, medications, vitamins, where it's been claimed they'll help with your tinnitus. One of the most common supplements that supposedly will help with tinnitus is something called, I'm going to turn my blur off so you can actually see this. Also, it's the wrong way around, but hopefully you can see what that is. Ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo biloba. Has anyone here tried ginkgo biloba? If you've tried ginkgo biloba, pop it in the chat. And I'm also interested to know if anyone's had any benefits from ginkgo biloba. So if you've not heard of this, it's a really common supplement you can buy online. And it contains all sorts of ingredients. It's actually a plant extract. Now, many places will claim that ginkgo biloba is effective for tinnitus. And it's not. So one of the first things I want to say is one of the most claimed supplements that's supposed a cure or helpful for tinnitus is ginkgo biloba. And ginkgo biloba is not going to help your tinnitus. So you'll see, I'm just going to open it now. It comes in little capsules, just like that. And you can see just like a powder inside. This is not only ineffective for tinnitus, it's actually potentially also unsafe. Okay. And the reason it's unsafe is because it can cause problems. It can have a number of unpleasant side effects, and it can also interact with other medications you might be taking. So first, tinnitus cure debunked. Ginkgo biloba is not effective. Don't take ginkgo biloba for tinnitus. Okay. I can see in the chat, Alan said it gave him a bloody nose. I'm sorry to hear, Alan. As you can see, it could be unsafe. Susan's tried it with no benefit. Anne tried it with no benefit. Jill's trying, no help so far. And well, you don't necessarily need to throw away, but I wouldn't continue taking it. Just to preface this as well, this isn't medical advice. If you have any specific concerns, then you should always go and see your doctor. Okay, so we've got another supplement here. Has anyone heard of a supplement called Cortexi? Cortexi, I'm going to write in the chat. This is another really common supplement that's supposedly helpful for tinnitus. Now, ginkgo biloba you can pick up for, a few pounds, few dollars from a herbal store. But Cortexi, I'm afraid, is a different story. This bottle is sold by some online stores for $69. Just this bottle. Now, we didn't pay $69 for it. We paid £7. We bought this from Amazon. And that's why you should be with Cortex. You might see a Facebook ad, you might see an Instagram ad for something like this, and it's just not worth the money. It's really expensive, and actually there's no evidence that it's effective. So the question here from Fee, what are the ingredients of Cortexi? Well, let me read them off. I've got the box here. Okay, I'm going to read off the ingredients. Organic hawthorn, organic horse chestnut, organic grape seed extract, organic stone roots, organic motherwort, go-to Carla leaf, butcher's broom. So just a lot of, these are all natural, supposedly natural ingredients. But there's nothing here that's going to help with tinnitus. This is a scam. The companies that sell this are taking advantage of you if you try to buy this. And, they will make all sorts of claims. This is clinically proven. I saw a claim earlier. This is supposedly 12 times more effective than the next best treatment for tinnitus. It's been proven to address the root cause. That's all lies. These companies are trying to scam you, and it's outrageous, really, what they say. So look, it kind of gets dispensed in drops. You can put it in drops like that. And actually, if you go to the Tinnitus UK, if you find something like this and you want to know whether it's effective, I'm going to show you a really good resource that you can use. And it will give you some information about this. So if you find something like this online and you're not sure whether this is going to be effective, you're not sure whether this is safe to take, whether it's going to help with your tinnitus, search in Google. I'm going to share my screen actually and show you guys now so you can see what I'm doing. Go to Google and go to Google search and search Tinnitus UK, which is the UK Tinnitus charity. And then type the name of the treatment, Cortexi in this case. And then here we go, click on the first link. So good question. Thanos has made a comment. I feel very disappointed that basically we are left with behavioural intervention, CBT as our only treatment. Thanos, that's not true. And I'm going to come on to that in a second. And that's a common misconception with tinnitus, and I'll come on to that. So Cortexi. And you'll see here, you'll talk about the claims it's made, and you'll see here, so look, they use a traffic light system to determine whether a treatment is safe and whether a treatment is effective, safety and efficacy. Now, it could be red, amber, or green, red being not safe, amber being potential dangerous, green being safe. You'll see for Cortex-C, it's neither safe, there's evidence of harm, and it's not effective either. And as a result, it's recommended. You can do this for all types of tinnitus treatment. So let me show you again for ginkgo biloba. Oops, spelled it wrong. Ginkgo biloba, Tinnitus UK. And you'll see they have a similar page for ginkgo biloba. And I suspect it's going to be red for both safety and efficacy. Yeah, so look at this. There's evidence of harm and there's no evidence that it's effective. So those are two supplements that I wouldn't recommend. Just to clarify, there's no other supplements that's been proven to be beneficial unless you already have a supplement deficiency. So if you are deficient in certain vitamins, vitamin deficiency can, in rare cases, cause tinnitus. If you're deficient in those vitamins, then obviously treating by providing supplementation in those vitamins could help with tinnitus, but that's quite rare. So question from Stephen, vitamin B12 is also speculative nonsense to help tinnitus. So vitamin B12 won't help you with the tinnitus, I'm afraid. There's been studies looking into this. It's not effective. And if it's harmful, why do stores sell it? Well, lots of stores sell ginkgo biloba for other things. And it is something that can potentially help. There's lots of herbal remedies that could potentially help with something else, but it certainly won't help with tinnitus. The reason they sell this for tinnitus is because, unfortunately, as we know, we feel very desperate with tinnitus. Tinnitus makes us desperate for escape, for a solution, for something that's working. And that means that we're more likely to be sucked into something that if we're told this is effective, if we're told this is a cure, we're more likely to be sucked in and risk something and pay for something. So actually, these companies are taking advantage of you. They're taking advantage of people with tinnitus. It's really unethical. So let's talk about something positive. Thanos, I want to go back to your chat question. You're left with behavioural intervention. So let's talk about something that is an effective cure for tinnitus. So I have a box here. Someone's asking about TRT. I will come onto that in a second. So for those of you that submitted questions, by the way, do you mind submitting the questions again in the chat? Because when my Zoom kicked me out, I've lost access to those questions from before. So if you submitted a question before, please pop it back in the Q&A and I'll come onto it. Okay, so in my hands here, I have a potential effective treatment, something that could be a cure for tinnitus, okay? And that is a hearing aid. Now, there's a caveat. Hearing aids are only effective in tinnitus if you have a certain degree of hearing loss. So your audiologist will do, if you've seen an audiologist, they'll do a hearing test. If you have moderate to severe hearing loss, sometimes mild hearing loss as well, hearing aid could be effective. And actually, many people get really good relief from hearing aids. Now, you're probably thinking, why is a hearing aid effective for tinnitus? And whilst I answer that question, I'm just going to unbox these, and you can see these are really good. These are really good hearing aids. They're they're called Lexi, and they're really reasonably priced. So if you're in the US, you can buy these. I don't think these are available yet in the UK. So I think these cost about $1,000. Now, why would a hearing aid be effective for tinnitus? So if you have hearing loss, what a hearing aid does is it plays the sound of your external environment and it amplifies it. Now, that amplification will extremely effectively mask the sound of the tinnitus, which means that when you have a hearing aid in, the tinnitus could disappear, or it could certainly become a lot less noticeable. But in many cases, it disappears. And what that means is that when you're wearing the hearing aid, the tinnitus is no longer noticeable and it's no longer a problem for you. So look at these. Very simple. These cost about $1,000. They're rechargeable. They just go behind your ear. It's as you can see, it's really small, and these aren't really noticeable if you're wearing them. It's just that tiny little wire. Any good audiologist will be able to recommend you a good hearing aid if you're in the UK. If you're in the US, you can actually buy these online. You don't even need to see an audiologist. So I would recommend, if you're interested in, if you haven't had a hearing test yet, have a hearing test. If you have had a hearing test and it shows you have some hearing loss, then speak to your audiologist or look online to see if you'd be appropriate for hearing aid. So comment from Giselle, in Canada, they're $5,000. So I'm not sure whether you can buy hearing aids online in Canada. I'm not sure what the regulation is. I know in the US you can get them for a lot cheaper, but you shouldn't need to spend $5,000 on a pair of hearing aids. You should be able to get hearing aids for a lot cheaper than that. And Julie's saying hearing aids do work. She wears them. So let's go on to the next supposed cure for your tinnitus. Now, bit of a controversial one. So quick show of hands in the chat. Who cleans their ears with cotton buds? Or who sticks cotton buds in their ears? Yeah, quite a few people raising their hands. Yeah, Dave uses them. Potato, not anymore. Jill said not anymore. Good. Quite a few people have raised their hands. V says not anymore. Good, good. Okay. Guys, please stop putting cotton buds in your ears. Okay. This is really bad. So let me explain why putting a cotton bud in your ear is bad. And I'm just going to show you if you don't know what a cotton bud is, let's just quickly show you one. So cotton buds are these things. Now, you might think that, so just before I explain this, let's put some context here. So tinnitus isn't a disease in itself. It's a symptom of an underlying cause. What that means is there are things such as an ear infection or earwax that could be causing your tinnitus. Now, you might think that if your earwax is causing your tinnitus, or if an infection is causing your tinnitus, sticking an earbud in and cleaning that earwax out, but that's not the case. Guys, I know there's quite a few questions coming into the chat, and in the Q&A, I promise I will get around to them. I've got a few more things to go through. I know someone's asked about TRT. I'll come on to that in a second. So if you have earwax, you might think that by putting a cotton bud in and cleaning your ear, and making sure that your ear is nice and clean, would help with the earwax and also help with the tinnitus as well. Now, that's not true, and it's actually not necessary, and it will actually potentially make your tinnitus worse. The reason this is if you think how the skin grows in the ear. So the skin grows in the ear outwards. And what that means is that it pushes any wax buildup or anything that you have in the ear outwards. And therefore, if you stick something in your ear, you're actually pushing the wax closer to the eardrum. And if you push the wax closer to the eardrum, it can cause risk of two things. One, the wax actually building up and impacting against the eardrum. Excuse me. And the second thing is it can actually increase the risk of infection because you're sticking one of these things, and these things aren't really that clean. You're sticking it in, and you're pushing all those germs right to the back of the ear where there's less protection and the skin's softer. And if you get an infection there, you can put your eardrum at risk and that kind of thing. So never stick anything in your ears. If you do want to use these, you can just clean very gently around the outside, but don't ever stick anything in. Don't stick fingers in, don't stick these in. Please be really careful with sticking things in your ears. They can make tinnitus a lot worse. And again, caveat, this isn't medical advice. If you have any questions, doctor. If you do have wax buildup, there are things that can be effective, really simple things actually. Just putting olive oil drops in. So putting olive oil drops in once a day will help to soften wax, and it's been shown to, it's actually what a doctor would recommend. I used to recommend it for my patients. You drop some wax in every evening, and then the wax softens and it usually comes out usually overnight after a few weeks. But again, speak to your doctor or audiologist if you're concerned about wax buildup. Okay. So we have one more thing to look at here, and that is an ear candle. Now you can see from this picture here how these things work. You stick the candle, you put your head at an angle, you stick the candle in your ear, you light the candle, and as the wax melts, it pours into your ear. You can see what these things look like. I'm not going to demonstrate this, by the way, guys, live. These things are, firstly, I don't want to get wax everywhere, and these things are dangerous. So, yes, people do purchase this because, you know, you've got to understand that lots of people, when they're desperate with tinnitus, will try it. And these things are supposedly, lots of people, websites will claim that these things will cure tinnitus. These things will get rid of tinnitus. Just look at what it says on the side. So I can't find the instructions. I think I've lost the instructions on these. But these, you know, claims are made about this that it can cure tinnitus and get rid of tinnitus. So you stick it in your ear like this. You light the top, and the wax goes into the ear, and then you have to, and then as the wax solidifies inside your ear, you pull it out, and supposedly the idea is that it cleans your ear out. That's complete rubbish. These things are dangerous, and you know, there's a whole load of things that can go wrong. The wax could burn the inside of your ear, then you're in trouble. You could cause an infection. It could get stuck. You get bits of wax stuck. There's just loads of things that can go wrong, guys. These are just really, really dangerous. Don't use them. Okay, right. Let's get on to the questions. So I've got quite a few questions here. So I've been asked about TRT, tinnitus retraining therapy. So tinnitus retraining therapy is a combination of extended periods of sound therapy, so you know, hours a day for a period of a number of months, combined with counselling for tinnitus. Tinnitus retraining therapy is not a tinnitus cure. There is some small studies that show that it could be effective, but it's not convincing. There's no convincing evidence to show that tinnitus retraining therapy, if you give 100 people tinnitus retraining therapy and you give 100 people nothing, the outcomes in both groups, broadly speaking, be the same. So tinnitus retraining therapy is something you could try if you want. It's not dangerous, it's safe, but it's probably not going to help tune out tinnitus. It's certainly not going to cure tinnitus. It's not going to get rid of it. Okay, so thank you for those that submitted questions. I'm going to go on to these now. So a question from Andrew, is Xanax helpful? Not for tinnitus, no. Xanax won't have any effect on your tinnitus. Question from Ingrid about the linear device. Is the linear device effective? Well, the answer to that is I don't know. There is some early studies that show promise, but it's not convincing. It's not as convincing as, for example, a hearing aid. It's not as convincing as CBT. CBT, we haven't talked about cognitive behavioural therapy. I'll come on to that later on. Cognitive behavioural therapy is the other effective treatment for tinnitus. So linear, again, it's not conclusive. If we look at what Tinnitus UK website, so guys, for all of these things, just Google Tinnitus UK and then linear. Let's see what it says. Okay, so what Tinnitus UK says about linear is it's given it an amber for safety. There is some potential for harm. And what they're talking about here is some people's tinnitus actually got worse with the linear device. And that's why it's saying there's some potential for harm. And it's saying there's limited evidence that it's effective. And as for that reason, because it's both amber for safety and efficacy, it's not recommended. We've already talked about TRT. Look, in my opinion, TRT is not worth it. You know, having to listen to a white noise for 5-6 hours every day is not a good way to manage tinnitus. I don't think it's something I'd want to do. If you want to try it, again, it's safe. Look, let's see what Tinnitus UK says about tinnitus retraining therapy. Again, guys, this is a really good way to look at these things. Just go to the Tinnitus UK website. Let's see what the AMBER system says on Tinnitus UK. So it's safe. Again, try it. But there's limited evidence that it's effective. So they've given it a green for safety and a yellow, an amber for efficacy. Is it effective? And they've put a question mark for whether it's recommended. They've recommended that you speak to your GP. So I would echo that. If you want to try it, I would recommend speaking to your GP. Question from Peter: can hearing aids help if you have great hearing? Unfortunately not. So a hearing aid won't help with your tinnitus if you have normal hearing. And that's, as I said, the caveat that we make. Question from Francesco: what information do you have on dynamic neurofeedback? My ENT suggested it. Could it help with managing my chronic bilateral tinnitus? Seems to have no organic cause. Recently had a bad spike. Francesco, we will be able to reschedule our meeting. I'm sorry about that. So dynamic neurofeedback. I'll be honest, I'm not sure about that. That's not something I'm aware of. It's not something I've seen any studies on. I certainly know that there's not been any large scale studies looking at how effective this is. So I'm afraid that's not a very helpful answer, but I'm not sure. Question from Soren. So why is Soren's tinnitus? Soren's tinnitus gets louder when they're laid down. It's a really that's a very specific question. I'm afraid I think I'm going to struggle to answer that. It's what it sounds like you have something what's called somatic tinnitus, which is tinnitus that changes when we move our head or move our neck, and that's definitely something I'd recommend speaking to your doctor about. Question from Mikey: can hearing aids help for hearing loss in high frequencies? Yes, and it depends on the extent of the hearing loss. So if you have a hearing loss at high frequencies and that's noticeable on an audiogram, then I would certainly recommend speaking to an audiologist to see whether a hearing aid would be an appropriate treatment for that. But in theory, yes, it could. It just depends on the extent of the hearing loss. So another question from Francesco. Good question. What are the differences in results between TRT, question is, what's the difference between TRT and CBT alone? So, Francesco, tinnitus retraining therapy, you said here, is maskers and CBT. It's actually not. It's maskers and counselling, which is different to cognitive behavioural therapy. Cognitive behavioural therapy is more specific. Counselling is more advice provided to an audiologist. And if you compare tinnitus retraining therapy and cognitive behavioural therapy, the research shows that cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT, is an effective way to manage tinnitus, and there's limited evidence to show that TRT is effective. So if we look at cognitive behavioural therapy on the Tinnitus UK website, as we have with all these other treatments, cognitive behavioural therapy, Tinnitus UK. And again, guys, I just can't recommend this resource enough. It's really, really good resource. So for cognitive behavioural therapy, it's green for safety, it's safe, and green for efficacy, evidence that it is effective. And for that reason, it's recommended by Tinnitus UK. So there's only 2 treatments that are actually recommended by Tinnitus UK. The first is cognitive behavioural therapy because it's safe and effective. And the second is a hearing aid, again, because it's safe and effective. And as such, both of those treatments are recommended first line for the recommending body that recommends treatment by doctors here in the UK. So Peter's question: would I recommend hearing aids for masking if hearing is good? No. Masking is probably not going to increase the speed at which you can habituate. It's not going to do you any harm, and I wouldn't recommend not doing it, but it's not something that's going to increase the speed that you tune out tinnitus. It's not going to change the volume of your tinnitus in the long term. Good question from Susan. How do you get the wax out? Well, again, not medical advice, but research shows that olive oil drops will soften wax. If you have problems with wax, then speak to your doctor or audiologist, and your audiologist, good audiologists, will be able to actually look in your ear and remove the earwax manually. But you have to do it. You have to have it done by a trained professional. Question from Lucy. What about TMJ or eustachian tube dysfunction massages? There's videos on YouTube. That sounds like it's not something that would be helpful. To be completely honest, it's not something I've seen any evidence for. But you know, for the context of everyone else, so TMJ, temporomandibular joint, that's the joint that connects our basically our skull to our jaw. It's this joint here. And if you have problems with this joint, that's actually linked to tinnitus. So problems with this joint can cause tinnitus. If you have a painful joint, then definitely speak to your dentist. That's something your dentist will be able to help with. But the two conditions are linked. Lucy, I haven't seen any research to show that those two, to show that a massage of those things would help with tinnitus, but I might be wrong. Guys, thank you so much for all these questions. We're getting a lot of questions here. So tapping particularly to the back of the head. I'm sure you've all seen the video on YouTube where you kind of tap your head in a funny way. For some people, that gives some temporary relief. It's not a cure, I don't think, but for some people, that does give temporary relief. For me, it doesn't help my tinnitus. Ingrid's question, is TRT the same as linear? Sorry, I've realized I haven't explained what linear is. So tinnitus retraining therapy, TRT, is a combination of tinnitus masking and counseling. Linear is a device that you play sound through headphones and it stimulates the tongue with very, very mild electric shocks. So you have a device that you put in your mouth for a few hours a day and playing sound at the same time. Whereas TRT, tinnitus retraining therapy, is just the sound on its own. So Jan is talking about the Levo system. And unfortunately it didn't work for Jan. I'm sorry to hear that. I think the Levo system, I'm actually just going to be cheeky and Google this, if it's what I think it is. Yeah, so a Levo system is another therapy. So I'm just on the website now. I remember what this is. So this is another type of sound therapy. There's no evidence to show that this is effective for tuning out tinnitus. It's certainly not a tinnitus cure. Good question from Susan. What about acupuncture? Unfortunately, there isn't any evidence to show that acupuncture is more effective than a placebo. That's not to say you might not find it helpful, but again, it's not going to cure your tinnitus. It's not going to get rid of the tinnitus. Question from Anne. So we've had some comments about tinnitus being good on one day and bad the next day if you don't do anything different. I want to change your perspective on this, guys. So for those of you that have variable tinnitus, that you have a few good days and you have a bad day, feels like you're going back to square one. You probably feel frustrated by that. You probably feel like this is a bad thing. Let me flip that on its head. If you have good days and bad days, that's actually a good thing. The reason it's a good thing because it shows that your brain is going through the process of tuning out the tinnitus. If you have days where your tinnitus is less noticeable, a good day, that means that process has started, and you will start to have more good days than you will bad days. So tuning out tinnitus is a process that takes time, it can take months, and if the way that starts is you'll have a couple of days where you think, oh, I haven't noticed my tinnitus, and then you'll have a day and you think, oh God, maybe this is getting better, and then you'll have a day where you do notice it and you're more stressed about it and it makes you feel bad again. Focus on the fact that you're having days where you're not noticing your tinnitus. It's a good thing if your tinnitus is variable, if you're having variable severity. And what will actually happen in time is that the frequency of good days that you have will increase. Don't obsess over trying to focus on, well, what did I do on the good day? What did I do on the bad day? Don't worry about that. Tinnitus is very variable. It's normal for it to change. Just focus on the fact that, you're having a good day, and that means that things are going to start improving. So a question from Stephen. Are hearing aids only beneficial with severe hearing loss whilst experiencing tinnitus in loud environments? So hearing aids are only beneficial if you have hearing loss. I think moderate hearing loss, potentially mild hearing loss as well, they can be beneficial. Stephen, this is a question I would definitely speak to your audiologist about. I don't feel like I can give advice on this. It's very specific, but I would. Is this something I would certainly speak to your audiologist about? Question from Alan: are NSAIDs dangerous? So NSAIDs are a type of medication, non-steroidal, anti-inflammatory. Oh God, this is embarrassing. I remember this. I've forgotten. I did this so long ago from medical school, but I've forgotten. They're a type of anti-inflammatory. Ibuprofen is a type of NSAID. Aspirin is a type of NSAID as well. NSAIDs can actually be a trigger for tinnitus. And could potentially exacerbate tinnitus. So do be careful of taking them. Definitely, this isn't medical advice. Definitely speak to your doctor if you're considering taking ibuprofen for prolonged periods of time. Question from David. Have I heard about therapy with flunazarine and pentoxyphyllina? I'm afraid I haven't. I'm not sure what either of those are. It's not something I've heard of, though. Okay, so I'm afraid I'm not going to have time to get through all these questions, guys. There's some really, really good questions. We've talked a lot about things that don't work, and I'm very aware that a lot of the things I've said, no, that doesn't work, no, that doesn't work. Look, I want to give you guys a message of hope. You've probably read online, there's nothing that can be done for tinnitus. Your doctor's probably told you. Richard, so can I please clarify with hearing aids helping mild hearing loss? It depends on the extent of the hearing loss. Really, it's really impossible for me to say unless I've seen your audiogram. It would definitely be recommendable to speak to your audiologist about that. I'm sorry that's not a very specific question, but it's difficult to answer that on here. So I want to give you a message of hope. You've probably read online that there's nothing that can be done for tinnitus. Your doctor's probably told you there's nothing that can be done for tinnitus. We've just spent 45 minutes talking mostly about things that don't work, but there is effective treatment. It's entirely possible to get back to the point where your life is no longer affected by your tinnitus. You can be the person again that you were before your tinnitus started. Let me explain how that's possible, okay? I'm just going to share my screen briefly. So in order to explain how this can work, I'm just going to show you a very quick diagram. And I hope my Zoom's not going to crash again. Stick around, guys, because I'm going to announce the prize draw in 5 minutes' time. But before I do that, I just want to explain how it's possible to stop noticing tinnitus. So at the moment, your tinnitus makes you feel bad, makes you feel anxious, makes you feel stressed, makes you feel angry, frustrated. That means your brain sees it as a threat. So to protect you, your brain needs to keep checking for that threat, and it makes you aware of the tinnitus. You notice the tinnitus, and then it makes you feel bad again. The brain thinks it's a threat, keeps checking for that threat. Cycle continues. What we need to do is we need to interrupt this cycle and change your brain's automatic reaction to the sounds you're hearing. So if we interrupt this cycle, stop your tinnitus making you feel bad, your brain will no longer think it's a threat, and it will no longer need to keep checking for this threat. If we interrupt this cycle, 3 things are going to happen. 1, you stop noticing tinnitus. 2, stops bothering you, doesn't make you feel anxious, frustrated, angry, tired, stressed. And 3, because you become less aware of it, the volume decreases. You're probably familiar with if you feel stressed or tired or angry, tinnitus seems louder. The inverse is true. It will seem quieter when you get to this point. And you can go back to the life you had before tinnitus. So it's proven that the most effective way to get to that point is with cognitive behavioral therapy. So this study here combined the results of lots of smaller studies, and it found that CBT is an effective therapy for tinnitus. So how do you access CBT? Well, here at Otto, we've designed a CBT program called the 90-Day Tinnitus Tune-Out Program. And this will allow you to take control of your tinnitus in just 3 months. Let me explain how this works. We'll build you a personalized plan, which will be matched to your type of tinnitus, okay? Which you'll be able to access through our mobile app. You're going to get unlimited coaching from one of our specialists, which is going to mean you're going to get quick results with not much effort at all. Your coach is going to guide you along the way, whatever you need, through the Otto app. You can ask as many questions as you want, and your coach will give you regular encouragement, give you regular updates through the Otto app. Oops. You'll get an expert consultation with one of our team. So you'll get advice from an expert who's been in your shoes. Okay. And of course, you'll get full access to the Otto app, which has got clinically proven CBT, physical therapy, and sleep. You'll also get full access to all of these webinars. We run weekly webinars. You're going to get access to watch these whenever you want. So we run these every week. We have them, all the evidence, all the latest news on a cure, research, tinnitus treatment. We update these each week. So all of this together is worth over £300 or over $400. But I'm really excited to be able to offer this for you for $107.99 for 3 months, which is a 77% discount on the total value of all of these. We wanted to pack in as much value as possible. That's $139. You can try it today for free. We have a 7-day free trial, so you can try through the app. I'm going to give you a link that you can use to try this. I'm just going to put the link in the chat now. Or you can go through the Otto app and you'll be able to try it. We also have a guarantee. So if by 90 days you haven't progressed by at least one tinnitus stage, we'll refund you double the purchase cost. So this is completely risk-free, you guys, okay? Okay, so someone that's still attending is going to win a free 90-day tinnitus tune-out program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick someone at random. Tony, you have won the prize draw. So it's not Tony Adams, it's Tony who doesn't have a surname. If you could, I'm going to send you my email address. If you could send me an email, I will be able to organize that for you. So well done. Congratulations, Tony. We do prize draws every week. And if you want to sign up to the 90-day tinnitus tune-out program, all you have to do is download the Otto app. I'm going to put a link in the chat. You can download the Otto app. And if you already have the Otto app, just make sure you're on the latest version. You'll be able to access this from the latest version. So just go to the App Store, the Play Store, make sure it's updated. You get a week's free trial, so you can try it for free. If you don't like it, cancel the trial. You've not lost anything. So it really is risk-free for you. And by the end, we actually guarantee the result for you as well. So if you don't get the result you want, if you don't have an improvement, we'll refund double the money. So thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure talking to you all. We'll see you next week. Thank you all. Thank you. It's been good to see you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, guys. See you next week. Remember, if you want to access the 90-day program, you can just download the Otto app, go to the link here. If you've already got the Otto app, just make sure you're on the latest version and you can access the 90-day program directly from the Otto app. If you're an existing subscriber and you want to access this, just cancel your existing subscription. and you'll be able to access it that way. Thank you, guys. So Neil, how do you update the app if you already have it? It should be on the latest version. If you're on an iPhone, just go to the App Store and just make sure it's updated. If you're on an Android, just go to the Google Play Store and it should update. If you have an existing subscription, cancel that subscription, and then you should see it should prompt you to sign up to the 90-day program within the app. Great. Thank you very much, guys. Looking forward to seeing you next week.